Alien Covenant, directed once again by Ridley Scott, starring Catherine Watterson, Danny McBride, and once again, Michael Fassbender. So going into this movie, I was really hoping that we were going to get more xenomorphs than Prometheus, and it definitely delivered. Also, I only watched about 30 seconds of the trailer, just because I didn't want anything ruined for me going into the movie. Speaking of Prometheus, unlike a lot of people, I actually did quite enjoy Prometheus. I mean, I don't think it was like an amazing film, but I do think it was good. It had a lot of cool stuff in it. Visuals were amazing, and it also explained a lot more about the xenomorphs, and like the white alien dude's really cool. And from that, Alien Covenant definitely follows from where Prometheus left off. It's definitely a sequel to that movie. In this movie, we follow a colonization ship that's set out to land on this new Earth-like planet. Walter, played by Michael Fassbender, is watching over the ship while everyone's in hypersleep. Walter, just like David from the first film, is a robot, and it seems like all their robots that they take on these trips are carbon copies of Michael Fassbender. So obviously something goes wrong, and the whole crew wakes up to fix the issue. They get this random distress-like signal from the helmet's feed, and they find it is linked to this like new planet that's relatively close by. One of the crew members realizes that the signal is very human-like, and so they pin it down to this Earth-like planet, and they realize that this planet is very inhabitable for humans, and they wonder why they haven't seen this before. So they want to go check it out just to see who's over there, who's living on it, and why do they get this random message. They land on this planet, and pretty much the whole movie takes place on this planet. As you see in the trailer, this planet looks a lot like Earth, except a lot less animals. This movie I would definitely define as an action horror sci-fi. Just like a lot of Ridley Scott movies, this movie is beautiful looking. From the cinematography to just the CGI, just everything about this movie looks really great. I mean, coming from a Ridley Scott film, you know, it has to look great. So, I mean, the visuals from outer space to when they're on the planet to the xenomorphs to everything. It's just very beautiful looking. There's just no complaints in the visual aspect of this film. The characters in this movie were just okay to me. You don't really get attached to any of them, not even the main ones. I just felt like there wasn't enough character development for me to really care about any of them, other than, I would say, like 3 of the characters. The action in this movie was nice and bloody, like really bloody, and the xenomorphs were super freaky in this. If you're a fan of the old Aliens movies or have seen the old Alien movies, you know the xenomorphs, you don't get to really see them as much. You get to see like quick flashes of them. But in this movie, you can see a lot of them, and I still think it works either way. They're still super creepy, and in this movie, I really dig them. There was a lot of basic horror tropes in this, though. A lot of people being by themselves, and then, oh no, they're by themselves, they're going to die. So that was kind of lame, because it was just like you could tell when the next person's going to die. It's like, oh, they're by themselves, or oh, they did something stupid. The one thing I did think was cool, though, in this movie is you get to learn a lot more about the xenomorphs and where they come from. Also, you do get to know what happened to David and Elizabeth Shaw from the last movie, Prometheus. The pacing in this was pretty good. There was a few slow parts here and there, but other than that, I think the pacing was pretty good. So one of the things that frustrated me the most about this film was how people died in this. Not that it was really, you know, cool seeing them die and how bloody it was. That was really cool. It was just, they make really stupid mistakes, or they're just idiots. Like, most of them die without defending themselves, and I get, you know, maybe having 1 or 2, but pretty much everyone who dies in this film do not defend themselves. They either get snuck up on, or they just, you know, are screaming, or just make a stupid or bad mistake, and they die. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand they're not space marines, you know, they're not some crazy combative skills to take on these new aliens that they've never met before, but they all get guns in this, so at least have a few of them defend themselves so they don't all look weak. But that just might be me wanting a little bit more action from this. I can say, though, that Ridley Scott does love his badass chicks, and in this, Daniels does a good job at being a badass chick. She does get quite a few kick-ass scenes. She definitely isn't close to Ridley, but she does get some cool scenes in there that I do like a lot. So this movie is really hard to talk about without saying any spoilers at all. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, skip to this part right here. So when the crew lands on the planet, a bunch of stuff happens, xenomorphs, and yeah, they run into David. David from Prometheus. Him and Shaw land on this planet, actually. That's where the distress signal comes from. And he's the only survivor left from him and Shaw. And just like the last movie where I was like, David, stop touching things. David, stop. David, stop touching things. Like, the whole movie, I was just like, David, stop. Because he just touched everything. In this movie, same thing. David, stop. Like, he is just very an interesting robot. So pretty much we see David studying the xenomorphs and the viruses that cause the xenomorphs. And it's really interesting. You can learn a lot more. But still, I don't like David. And really all I'm going to say is David is a evil, crafty robot. And I'm just going to leave it at that without spoiling it too much. Okay, now that we're done with the little spoiler talk, there's something in this movie that happens at the very end that I totally called. Like, when it happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally called that. Like, I don't know if they wanted it for the audience to get it right away or if it was just me because I watch a lot of movies. But I totally called it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I knew that was going to happen. And at the end, I was just like, mad, and like, yeah, you just have to see it. If you watch it and you totally saw what I saw at the very end of the movie, comment down below, tell me if you saw it. But in all, this movie had a lot of good stuff going for it. Creepy, bloody, I mean like really rated R bloody, action, sci-fi, and a lot more explanation for the xenomorphs. But I do think it falls short with the characters and just a little bit of the horror tropes that they used, which they could have done a lot better. Also, I wanted to learn more about the white alien dudes. We didn't get to really learn a lot about them in this film, which is kind of a bummer. Also, sad, but there is no after the credit scenes. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. In all, it wasn't as good as I was hoping for, but it was still enjoyable. And that's why I give Alien Covenant a 6.5 out of 10. If you guys like this review, hit that thumbs up. If you guys want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And thanks for watching.